Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Like what there, Spring 5-point expression we are going to use. Definitely, I'll discuss about all the major features of the Spring 5-point expression. You are going to understand it clearly. That's okay, fine. Right, so these are the versions information. Then which type of product it is that licensed software or open source software? If you have to this Spring framework, it would be like what there, open source software. Open source software, that the source code is also available along with this particular product. It's the open source software. Then apart from that, type of framework. What is the type of the framework it is? No, right? It is like application framework. You know already. What is this application framework, guys? Now tell me what exactly this application framework there. It allows all the layers of the enterprise application. It can be used to prepare all the layers of the enterprise applications. This is one point. Type of framework is like what their application framework. Understand this clearly. Then after that, it is designed on the basis of what? On the basis of which technology, which programming language it was designed there. Just simply we can understand on the basis of Java and Java. Then what next one here we can use there, and J2EE, Java and J2EE also. Java J2EE. Why I'm using that J2EE? It will use internally servlets also there. It will use internally servlets, and maybe Java in the sense Jdbc is also utilized there internally. So Java and J2EE designed on the top of Java and J2EE. That means inside the Spring framework, everything is Java only. It's a Java-based framework. You can understand it clearly. Next one is after that, after completion of this, then it is supported by almost all the IDEs and the servers. Then almost all the servers are able to support for this, and IDEs are also be supported. But any specific IDE to prepare the Spring applications, of course, Eclipse is available. Eclipse is available common for any type of application. It is providing common environment for J2SE applications, providing common environment for web applications, providing common environment for JS-based applications, web services application. Of course, Spring applications also it is providing environment, but it is a common. No specification for Spring applications. But on the top of this Eclipse IDE, there is a flavor. There is a flavor for preparing only Spring applications. That flavor is what there? STS. Sir, got my point or not? STS. What is this STS actually? Spring Tool Suite. Spring Tool Suite. This is exclusively for the sake of preparing Spring-based applications. STS is providing some environment, some inbuilt environment, predefined environment to prepare Spring-based applications. So here we are going to use like what their specific ID is what? STS. But I'm telling to you clearly, guys, in our classes, what IDs I'm going to use there. Listen carefully. Initially, I'm going to start with applications with Eclipse. Definitely, Eclipse, I will start our programming there. Initial classes there. Once you are in track of these applications, once you understood the concepts of these applications, what is going on inside these applications, then gradually I will introduce STS. All right, majority of the applications we are going to do with STS. After that, I will introduce like what there, IntelliJ IDEA. IntelliJ IDEA. Definitely, we are going to see programming with Spring applications. We are going to prepare by using what? IntelliJ IDEA. Okay, but meanwhile, before starting actual programming, initially few examples I'm going to do with Eclipse. But when some examples are completed, when a few examples are completed with Eclipse, then I will introduce Maven. Maven tool I will introduce. I will take minimum 3 to 4 classes or 4 to 5 classes on Maven. If after completion of this Maven, then I will start to design all the Spring-based applications with Maven. But initially, we need to understand how much hard work we have to do to prepare these Spring applications. After that, I will provide some easiness by understanding Maven. If we use Maven, then it's somewhat easy for us to develop the enterprise applications now. So we are going to see that Maven also I'm going to be included there. But now, then you may ask one question there. If you ask one question there, out of all these IDEs, guys, then which IDE is suitable for us and which IDEs are? Then your interest is what? What's the IDE we are going to use? Definitely, I have to remove this Eclipse from this list. I have to check STS and IntelliJ IDEA. These two things I want to use. But which IDEA you like more? If you ask this question to me, but always my favorite is what? IntelliJ IDEA. That IDE look and feel, that IDE environment. Almost all, I'm thinking while working with that IDE, I may feel how I'm playing with my mobile phone. Like that, I'm able to get some kind of look and feel. So anyway, that's my personal view. But both are providing very good environment. But STS is exclusively for Spring-based applications. So that better to go for like what there STS. Look and feel point of view, I feel very comfortable with what there IntelliJ IDEA. But services point of view, STS is also very good. It is giving some inbuilt services for us. So we are able to get some idea. That's okay, fine. Next one is, apart from that, what is the website for this particular Spring framework and everything, where we are able to get it now? Website is like what there, spring.io. Spring.io. Like www.spring.io, or else we can use like what there, http:// www.spring.io. This URL if you use, no, there we are able to get all the downloadable things, or maybe that guides, quick review, or quick guides, and every information we are able to get about our Spring framework from what there, www.spring.io. Right, guys. Now these are the somewhat details here we are able to use clearly. They are the somewhat details about like what no Spring framework. Right, sir. Home is like what their interface one. Then other is Mr. Rod Johnson. Objective is to simplify and accelerate end-to-end enterprise application development. Up to now, 5.x version is available here. Type is what? Open source software. Type of framework is what? Application framework. Then after that, design on Java and J2EE, supported by almost all the IDs and servers. And a specific ID is what there? STS. And website is what there? http:// and HTTPS, I think so, HTTP or HTTPS, just we can check with once time. Then www.spring.io. So this is the site here what we are able to get clearly. Right, sir. Now anyway, these are the various details here we understood that. Then after that, Spring modules. What exactly the modules are available inside the Spring framework? Right, that all the modules are going to be existed as per the versions. Versions wise, that modules are available. Then we are going to see all the modules of the Spring framework clearly. Now let us see the Spring 1.x version modules. What are the various modules are available inside the Spring 1.x version? Almost all you can think of it, it is a history of the Spring framework. No, in 1.x version, which modules are existed there? Just one time try to understand this clearly. All right, sir. Now let me prepare some diagrams. No. What exactly the modules are available? Let me prepare a diagram now. Right, sir. This is one thing. That is what Spring documentation has given this modules information. Same thing I'm trying to provide here. Now try to recognize this. Right, sir. I gathered this information from documentation only. You can understand this is like what their core module. Okay, this is like what their Spring AOP module. Now this is like what their web MVC module. Web MVC. Okay. Now this is DAO module. This is a web module. Web is different and web MVC is different. Both are not same. Next one is after this DAO and web module. And the next one is like what there ORM module. Next one is context module. Spring context. Understand, guys? Now these are the various modules which are available. Let me prepare all the modules versions wise, no? Then after that I will explain each and every module. Maximum required modules we are going to understand there. Now this is 1.x version, Spring 1.x version module. Right, sir. That's okay, fine. Observe the terminology also. Then which modules are newly introduced, which modules are not introduced newly. We can check this clearly. So Spring AOP, Spring MVC, DAO, Web, ORM, Context, and Core module. That's okay, fine. Now, inside these, mainly, which modules are available here? First one is a core module. Then after that, what next one? You know, AOP module. Next one is the DAO module. Then after that DAO, then we can understand clearly ORM module. After this ORM, next one is web module. Then after that, context module. Then web MVC. These are the various modules are existed inside the Spring 1.x version. Similarly, Spring 2.x version. What is the purpose of each and every module? I'll explain to you later. But let me complete all the modules information. Spring 2.x version. What modules are existed here now? If you observe these modules in Spring 2.x version, right, sir. Again, here we are able to have core module, core container, core modular, core container, both are same, and core module. That's okay. On top of this, here we are able to have AOP module, right, sir. DO module and ORM module, JEE module, and a web module. This is core module, and this is like what there AOP module, and this is JDBC module, JDBC and DAO module. Now this is like what there ORM module. Now this is a JEE. Then web module. That's it. So these are the various modules are existed in 2.x version, Spring 2.x version. Understand the changes between 1.x and 2.x version here, no? Just if I open this 1.x version, core module, then AOP, DAO is converted to JDBC DAO in the case of 2.x version, and web MVC, both are combined in a single module. Web MVC combined into a single module, that is what their web module. Next one is, apart from this, context module, Spring context module, and a remote module, remoting, that means integrating Jdbc applications or integrating like RPC applications, may be integrating like what I'm telling there, remote method invocation, RMI applications there. So to integrate all of them, there is a separate module was provided here. That module is what now? JEE module. JEE module, right? Now this is another module to integrate Jdbc applications and all these things. So this is what exactly the structure about like what there 2.x version, Spring 2.x version related modules. Right, so now let me check this clearly. This is about like what Spring 2.x modules. Right, sir. Then after that, after completion of this, then we are going to understand Spring 3.x version. But before that, now tell me what are the various modules are existed here? You know, core module is existed. Then apart from this, AOP module is available. Now you get JDBC DAO module. Not only DAO, JDBC DAO module. Then after that, next one is like what there after completion of this ORM module. Then after this ORM module, web MVC, both are come under like what they know, web module. Then after this, after completion of this JEE module, okay. Any other one here apart from this? Right, sir. So the context and everything will be included. Just see this one. What modules can I provided there? ORM, JDBC, DAO, JEE, web. This is AOP, not SOP. AOP. Right, yes, now. This is about like what the AOP. Right, sir. These many modules can be provided. That's okay, fine. In Spring 3.x version, the total modules architecture was changed. In a 3.x version, that more and more enhancements are available. More changes are identified inside this Spring 3.x version. In a Spring 2.x version, annotations are available. In Spring 2.5 version, annotations are existed, but very less number of annotations are available. But when we come for Spring 3.x version, more and more number of annotations are existed. More and more number of annotations are provided in Spring 3.x version. Right? Annotations are introduced effectively from 3.x version only. Then before that, 1 or 2 annotations are available, but they are not mandatory, not important. But 3.x version onwards, more and more number of annotations are provided. Right, sir. Now let us see what are the various modules are existed inside this Spring 3.x version. Now let us see this one. Now first of all, here we are having a layer. This layer is test. The first module is what? The test module. Then after that, the second one is like what there? This module is called as core container. Core container. Inside this core container, what modules are existed here? Submodules, core. Next one is like what there? Core, bean module. After this bean module, we are able to have like a bean module and a context module. Next one is expression language. Sorry, expression language. Yes, expression language module is existed. So these are the various modules are available inside this core container. Then after this, then what next things are available there? And here on the top of this core module and 3 other modules are existed. No. What 3 other modules are existed here? Now the first one is like what there? AOP. Next one is aspects. Then after that, instrumentation. Right. Next one is on the top of this, what modules are existed here? 2 more parts are defined now. That's what 2 more parts are existed. Now this is data access integration part. This is data access and integration part. Data access and integration part. Now inside this data access and integration part, what we are getting there? That's it. 1 minute. Now let me prepare the total part here so that I'll explain later on. First one is like Jdbc module. Next one is ORM module. Next, another new module was introduced here, OXM. Object XML mapping, OXM, in which ORM module is existed here. Next one is JMS support is available. Messaging service, Java messaging service is a part of the Jdbc actually. Right, that support is also existed here, messaging service. Then after that, apart from all these things, transactions we required. Transactions. Okay, then after that, next one is like what there, web. Separate web module is existed here, web integration or web access, or it may be web module. Now inside this web module, so many modules are existed, internal modules are existed here. First one is web module, and next one is servlets, and next one is after the servlets, portlets, and then after this portlets, At the time of introducing 3.x version, at the time of introducing 3.x version, very good boom is available for struts framework. At the time of introducing this 3.x version, very good boom is available for struts framework. Almost all 2004 1.x version, 2006 2.x version, maybe around 2009, 2009 to 2009, 2014, struts framework is a main framework. It has very good demand. So by the time struts framework is going on perfectly, then Spring framework is thinking about it, how to integrate that struts framework. Right, because of that reason, there is a separate module which is provided, which a separate module is existed there inside, like what there inside this web module, that is like what there struts. Struts, a separate module is existed here. Struts is a framework, already web framework. So a separate module is provided inside this Spring, to integrate struts applications. Okay, this is the totally like 1 point, that means 3.x version. All the components which are available in the 3.x version. Here only major changes are available. Almost all of them are going to be repeated in 4.x version also. But these are the main concepts are available in 3.x. In Spring 3.x version, in Spring 3.x version, we had a number of new concepts. That might be like a large version, that might be a big version. Okay. Now this is like what I'm telling there, 3.x version scenario. Spring 3.x version modules. Right, sir. Now let us check this, what exactly the modules are existed here. First one is like what is the test module. Next one is a core container. Inside this core container, what we are having there, we can observe this clearly. First one is like what their core module. Next one is like what their beans module. Then after this beans module, next one is like what their context module. Context module. Then after that, expression language. Right. So then after this core container, what next one here? Data access and before this, AOP module is existed here. Now next one is like what there, aspects module is existed. After this AOP and aspects module, then what next one here? No, instrumentation. Instrumentation. These many modules are existed separately. After that, data access and integration. Data access and integration. Under this data access and integration, what are the various sub-modules here we provided there? What exactly the sub-modules here we provided? The sub-modules would be, we can observe this clearly. Jdbc module. Then after this JDBC module, like ORM module, OXM module. Then after that, what next one here? JMS. Next one is a transaction. Transaction is a separate module from 3.x version of the Spring framework. Before that, it is not existed as a separate module. Next one is after that, web module. Web and web MVC. Inside this web module, what modules are existed here? Web itself is a module. Then apart from that, servlets is a module. Then after that, what next one? Portlets is a module. Then what next one? Then after that, struts. That's it. Now these are about clearly the modularization or modules information of our Spring framework. Okay, fine. Next one is the Spring 4.x version. Almost all similar structure is available. Spring 3.x and 4.x and 5.x versions are almost all having same type of modules, similar modules, but small, very minute changes are available. 4.x and 5.x both are same, sir. No changes on this modularization, no changes on this diagrams here. Same, both are very same. Let's observe this clearly. In a Spring 4.x version, what modules here we are able to get there? Let us check this one. Now just, okay, no problem. I'll re-prepare this diagram here, don't worry. Right, sir. Now this is like what there, test module. After this test module, next one is core container. core container. Now inside this core container, what modules are existed here? No, core is existed, beans is existed, core beans. Then after that, what next one here we have to understand there? Context here we have to understand context module. After this context module, right? The next one is like what there? SPEL. SPEL. What is that SPEL actually? Spring expression language. Spring expression language. These many submodules are existed here. Right, sir. Then whenever we are getting this one, some other modules are also existed here. What modules are existed here? Now first one is like what there? AOP. Then after this AOP, aspects. Next one is like what? Then after this aspects, instrumentation. One more module is introduced here. Right, sir. Along with that instrumentations, messaging is also included. First one is like this is like what there? AOP, aspects, instrumentation, okay. Now get this is like what there? Messaging. Now on the top of this, then what we are able to have there, two more parts are existed, we know already. Right, so now this is like what I'm telling there, data access, or what next one again, data access or integration. Then inside this, then what we are having there, first one is Jdbc module. Then after that, next one is like what there, ORM module. Next one is OXM asterisk. Then after this OXM, then what next one get? JMS. Then after that, finally here we have to provide like what there? Transactions. Almost all similar. Have you seen any change up to now? In 4.x version, one module was introduced separately. Which module was introduced there? When compared with the 3.x version, 4.x version, one module was introduced. Which module it is now? Messaging module. Messaging module is not existed previously, up to instrumentation only. Now here we are getting messaging module. Now next one is like what there? WebMVC, web and WebMVC. Inside this WebMVC module, and what we are able to provide there? Web module. Next one is servlets module. Next one is like what there? Portlet. Then after that, previously what we have provided there, Struts framework. The time when Spring Boot 4.x version is introduced there, Struts framework was down, totally down, Struts framework. So they are checking for some alternative. At the time of introducing the Spring 4.x version, a new module is coming to the picture. That is like what there? WebSocket. WebSocket is also another module that is added in the case of like what there? WebMVC. That's it. Right, sir. Now, similarly, almost all same architecture is existed for what there? Spring 5.x version. No changes are required. No changes are required. Almost all similar. Everything is same. No chances to go for any other content here. Right. Then whatever the thing here we have seen there about this 4.x version, almost all same 5.x version is also be having there. Right. So Spring 4.x underscore 5.x, not 4.x, no, 5.x modules. Right. So now these are the content here. These are the various modules here we can understand clearly. Right. 1 minute of time, guys. Okay. So overall, what we completed there, what are the various modules are available, that all the things here we complete. Now tell me, in a Spring framework, in a Spring 4.x version, in a Spring 4.x and Spring 5.x version, what changes are available that we have to understand? What are the various modules are introduced there? We have to understand. Now tell me here, where we have to go for the changes now? Test is okay, core container, core beans context, and in place of this expression language, we used to say like what there, SPEL. Same, Spring expression language. And next one is like what there, in the case of AOP aspects in instrumentation, then apart from this, then what we are getting there, no, messaging, that is one thing. Data access and integration, no changes, no. Then web and web MVC, what we are getting, web servlets, portlets, not postlet, portlets. In place of struts, then what we are able to provide there, web sockets, okay. That's it. Now these are the changes here we can understand in a Spring 4.x version and a Spring 5.x version. But observe carefully, still you may ask one question to me, sir, 4.x version is available and Spring 5.x version is available. Modules wise, no difference is available. But do you have any differences features wise? No. Yes, a number of differences are available. So without having differences, why they are releasing that newer version there? So definitely some differences are available. At present, I can give one simple difference. One simple difference at present. In a Spring 4.x version, functional programming was utilized very less. Functional programming, that means Java 8 features are just touched. Java 8 features are also be existed here. Modularization, modules and modularized programming is more in the case of Java 9 version. More functional programming is available in Java 9 version. The Java 9 version provided modularization, modular programming, functional programming effectively is implemented in a Spring 5.x version. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? Of course, lambda expressions and these topics are implemented inside this 4.x version. But more functional programming, suppliers, consumers, more functional programming was provided, was implemented inside like what there, Spring 5.x version. But modules are very same. That internal implementations are totally different. More modular programming was implemented inside the Spring 5.x version. That only the major difference here we can understand. But when we go for features wise, new enhancements wise, new enhancements are going to be available internally, but not required to talk about all these things at present clearly. All right, sir. Good. Anyway, this is the totally modules information of the Spring framework. Up to now, 1.x, 2.x, 3.x, 4.x, and 5.x modules are available. All the modules here we understood. Just I would like to give small overview on all these modules. Majority of the modules. That means important module. Out of all these things, which modules we are going to be covered? Up to that, I want to give some overview of these modules. Majorly, I'm going to use which modules here in our classes there. Even out of all these modules, which modules I'm planning in a basic Spring framework now. I'm not talking about Spring Boot and all. I'm talking about only Spring framework. Then which concepts here I'm going to think about this Spring framework now. Initially, we can understand core module. Then the second one is like what there. Out of all these modules, which modules we are going to understand? Core module we are going to understand. Apart from this core module, next one is like a JDBC DAO module. Then after that, the third one is like what there? AOP module. And the fifth one is like ORM module. And fifth one is like what there? Transactions. Transactions are also here we are going to understand. I'm going to be cover these transactions. And the next one, after completion of these transactions, we are going to understand web module. And the seventh one is like what there? Web MVC. The modules here we are thinking. So web is different and web MVC is also different. Just we are going to understand overview of these modules now at present from all these things now. Security module is available, but it will come along with all the concepts here. It's not like any separate module. It's not like any separate thing. No, security will come along with all these things. We are not including inside this diagram there, but it's also existed here. It will come along with all the modules there. Anyway, security module also we are going to understand separately. Not to think much about it, and security is also we are going to understand it clearly. Now let's observe this clearly, guys. Core module, JDBC DAO module, AOP, ORM, transactions, web, WebMVC. These are overall modules in a Spring. Here we are going to be covered. Here my meaning is also be as early as possible. We have to complete the Spring. Then as early as possible we have to start with Spring Boot. Whatever the applications we are able to do inside the Spring, almost all the applications we are going to do with Spring Boot. Spring Boot is an enhancement of the Spring framework. So nowadays in entire market, Spring Boot and microservice is going on. But without knowing Spring framework, we are unable to understand Spring Boot. That's the problem. That's why because of that reason, here we need to understand the required information of Spring. Then after that, I'll go for like what is Spring Boot and microservices. But my intention is what there. Anyway, we are taking responsibility to cover the Spring framework. Let us see the total information. Let us see the total information inside the Spring framework. Maybe 10 to 15 days of extra time if I take, that is not going to be happen anything. But if I cover the total Spring framework, then somewhat easiness we are able to get in a Spring Boot, and then after that microservices there. Because of that reason, here I am taking like what there, the total Spring framework I want to cover clearly. Whatever the concepts are available inside the Spring framework, everything we are going to understand now. Right, sir. Then if you observe this overview of all these things, overview of these modules here, what we can understand about this Spring Core module. What is the purpose of the Spring Core module? Simple. I'm asking one question to you. Now tell me what we are able to get with core Java. Java is available in multiple things, right? What we are able to get with core Java? All the fundamental elements of the Java we are able to cover inside the core Java or not? All the foundation, all the basic concepts of the Java will be covered in core Java. Am I right or not? Say for example, introduction part. Next one is a whoops, object orientation, exception handling, multi-threading, IOSIMs, collection framework. All these concepts are like what they're fundamentals, very, very fundamentals of the Java. On the top of that fundamentals, we are going to build the applications. Maybe J2EE or maybe some other technologies we are going to understand. Similarly, the core module of the Spring framework. Core module of the Spring framework will cover all the building blocks of the Spring application development. All the building blocks of the Spring application development. Please recognize my point here. In the Spring framework, we are going to provide application development with beans. Everywhere we have to talk about beans only, Java beans only. Declaring one normal Java class, we are declaring some variables, private variables, providing some setter methods and getter methods, and preparing what they know, some business logic. Preparing some business methods, that's it. Up to like what they're up to basic Spring applications I'm telling there. So everywhere we are going to talk about Java beans only inside the Spring framework. Even in EJBs onwards, enterprise Java beans onwards, everywhere we are going to talk about like what they know, Java beans only. Similarly, in all the J2EE applications, majority of the work is going on with the Java beans, where we are going to store the data, where we are going to write some like what the business logic, where we are going to write some validation logic, there we are going to write some exception handling related, a number of things we are going to implement in the case of the Java bean. But how to prepare the Java bean classes? What is the life cycle of the Java bean objects? How beans are going to be maintained inside the Spring framework? The total study of Java beans we are going to be completed inside like what now? Core module. See, inside the core container, there is a topic like beans topic is available now. There we can understand clearly. Okay, that is one thing. Next one is after that. Now tell me, who is executing our Java programs now? Of course, JVM. JVM is executing our Java programs. Spring applications also, JVM can execute that Java programs. That's okay. But inside the Spring, we are going to prepare a bean class. Java bean class, we are going to prepare with some logic. If I want to set a data to the bean object, if you want to get the data from the bean, and if you want to execute some logic inside the bean, first of all, I need to create a bean object or not? First of all, I have to create a bean object or not? Then who is creating that bean object in the case of Spring framework now? Developers are not going to create any bean object. Developers are not going to create any bean object. Bean objects will be created by one separate component, one separate element inside the Spring framework. That is the main element inside the Spring framework. That element is nothing but what? Container. That element is what now? Container. Simple example. Servlet examples we might be seen. Servlet examples you have seen. Who's creating servlet object? Who's creating servlet object? Who is maintaining the servlet object? No, servlet container or not? Servlet container is creating servlet object. Servlet config object is prepared by servlet container. Servlet context object is prepared by servlet container. See, all these objects which are required in our web applications are created by containers or not? Definitely they are created by containers. So the study of these containers we are going to understand inside this core module. Study of the containers like bean factory container, application context container. Two types of containers we are able to use: bean factory and application context. Then how bean factory is creating objects for the beans, how application context is preparing objects for the beans. That everything we are going to understand part of the core module. Understand my point, Ken? Then who will create bean objects in earlier mode? Who will create bean objects in the later mode? Then everything, every study of these containers we are going to understand inside this core module. Observe carefully. Then after that, bean life cycle already we understood there. What is the meaning of this bean life cycle there? Creating bean object, bean initialization, bean initialization. Then after that, bean destruction. Bean destruction. If you observe this one, while initializing bean, what we have to do? While initializing the bean, what we are going to execute? And while being deinstantiation, what we are going to execute? That everything we are going to be understand there clearly. Not only that, injecting bean objects from one layer to another layer, injecting one bean object to another bean. So that is nothing but dependency injection. The topic we are going to understand is a very, very important topic inside our Spring framework. The dependency injection, inversion of control, that everything we are going to understand under this core module. Right, sir. Bean factory is one container. Application context is another container. Bean factory is a somewhat older one. It able to provide only bean objects life cycle, creating bean objects and maintaining bean objects and destroying bean objects. That's it. But advanced features are not provided by bean factory. Advanced features are supported by application context. What are these advanced features? No, say for example, event propagation, event handling over the bean. When a bean object is created, I want to get a notification. When a bean object is destroyed, I want to get a notification. When a bean object is initialized, I want to get a notification. So event notification model is required. That is not supported by bean factory. That would be supported by application context. Internationalization support. Internationalization from language to language, country to country. Some conventions with some variations are available. So I want to prepare my Spring application with respect to a particular language, with respect to a particular country. On the basis of the locality, I want to prepare my Spring applications where I need some internationalization. That internationalization support is provided by like application context only, not by bean factory. Understand my point? Not only that, so many concepts are available. Most advanced features are supported by like application context, but which are not supported by bean factory. So overall information about these containers we are going to see under this core module. So it will cover the total building blocks of the Spring applications. Total building blocks of the Spring applications will be covered inside this core module. I'm saying to you, this is almost all equal to core Java for the entire Java J2EE. Got my point here? That's okay, fine. Leave this point. Just overall view, explanation one I'm telling there, not required to go for any too much content here. That required information is already available in the material, just we can check with that, not mandatory now. Just try to understand what I'm telling you now. The next one is like what there, Jdbc module. Forget about this DO module. I will explain the DO module. First of all, understand Jdbc module. Guys, now tell me, what is this Jdbc? What is the meaning of Jdbc? At this abbreviation. Java database connectivity. Java database connectivity. Right, sir. Java database connectivity. What we are able to do with this Jdbc? Java database connectivity. What we are able to do with this Jdbc? Just we are going to interact with the database from Java applications in order to perform some database operations. What database operations? No, inserting, creating table, or inserting the data, or updating the data, deleting the data, fetching the data. All these database operations are required from Java applications. So Jdbc we are using to perform all the database operations now. Now I'm asking one question. What exactly the steps we require to interact with the database from Java applications in order to perform database operations? What exactly the steps we require now? Tell me. What steps we required here now? Tell me. Step number 1 is what there now? Tell me. First one is what there? Load and register driver. Guys, by the way, I'm asking to you, all of you are having awareness on advanced Java? Little bit, not too much. JDBC, minimum JDBC subs. JDBC and servlets basic programming. Without that, you are unable to understand clearly. And one more thing I'm telling there, actually in this program, in general, Spring Boot microservices course, if you observe there, people are going to talk about little bit information on Spring, then as well as possible, they will move to Spring Boot. Then after microservices, they're trying to put more focus on Boot and Spring Boot and microservices. But my philosophy is what? Without knowing complete information of the Spring framework, you may not understand the internals of Spring Boot. But whenever we are talking internals of Spring Boot, there we need the internals of the Spring framework. That's why I want to discuss the total information. But if you want to understand effectively this Spring Boot microservices now, first of all, we need to have strong foundation on core Java and advanced Java. These two things, if you know, then the remaining part will be very simple. Anyway, let's observe this clearly. Load and register a driver. If you want to load and register the driver, then what we have to do, guys? Now tell me, what is the code here we have to use there? Class dot for name of some driver class name. A string value here we can provide this, some driver class name here we have to specify. This is one in this section to load and register the driver. Next one is, what is that next step, guys? Now tell me. Second step would be like what there? Establish a connection between Java application and the database. Establish connection between Java application and database. This is second one. All right, so then how we are able to establish connection between Java application and database there we can understand. Connection con is equal to, simply we have to use driver manager dot, what is it now? Get connection. Then inside these three parameters here, we are going to pass now. What are the three parameters here? First one is driver URL. Driver URL. Type 4 driver maximum we are going to use JDBC colon ODBC or Oracle colon thin colon localhost 1521 or XE or something else. Driver URL and database username and database password. These two things here we are able to provide. That's okay, fine. Now next one is like what there? What third one? Now create statement or prepared statement or callable statement. Right, sir. Callable statement. This is the third step here. We can observe this. Now, okay, just initially we are going to use statement only, not to go for prepared statement or callable statement immediately. If you observe this statement, statement st is equal to con dot create statement method. Con dot create statement method. Observe this clearly. Then after that, that fourth step is like what there. After creating statement now, write and execute SQL queries. Write and execute what? SQL queries. Right, sir. This is the main point. This is important point inside the JDBC applications. Okay. Then to write and execute SQL queries there, here we have to use st.execute update method we are able to use. Here we have to write some SQL query. This method will be used to execute like non-select SQL queries. Create a table, update a table, insert records and everything without SQL, without select SQL query. Except the select SQL query and everything we are able to execute with this execute update method. Next one is st.execute query method here we have to use. st.execute query method. Now here also we are going to write SQL query. Which SQL query here we are going to write here? Select SQL query. To execute select SQL queries, exclusively we have to use execute query method. To execute non-select SQL queries, we have to use what there? Execute update method. Observe carefully. Next one is after that, st.execute method. st.execute method. Now this st.execute method is mainly for both types of SQL queries. Maybe this execute method will be used for select SQL queries and as well as what now? Non-select SQL queries. Anything we can use. Any kind of SQL query we can use. But where we are going to use execute method, where we are going to use execute query and execute update, there's a latter issue not required here. But if you want to write and execute SQL queries, these three types of methods we are going to use inside the JDBC. All right. Then what is the last step here? In general, most of the people are used to forget these steps now. The step is like what there, st dot close, closing the resources, st dot close, statement close. Next one is like what there, no, con dot close, con dot close. But actually, whenever we are closing the connection, automatically statement will be closed. Not required to close the statement separately. Statement is not required to close separately. When we are closing connection, automatically the statement is going to be closed here. As observe carefully what I'm telling to you. These are overall steps of JDBC. If you want to prepare any JDBC application, these many steps here we have to follow. One question I'm asking there, one very simple question to all of you know, understand this. These many steps here we are using. For example, I want to prepare 10 JDBC applications. In a first JDBC application, just I want to create a table, creating a table. Next JDBC application, I want to insert the records. Next JDBC application, I want to update the data. Next JDBC application, I want to delete the data, or maybe I want to fetch the data. Next JDBC application, I want to delete the data from database. 6 number of JDBC programs I'm expecting. First program, creating a table. Second program, inserting data. Third program, updating the data. Fourth program, fetching the data. Fifth program, deleting the data. Sixth program, deleting the table, dropping the table. So 6 JDBC programs I want to prepare. Now you only tell me, in all the 6 programs, in all the 6 JDBC programs, which intersections are very much common? Which intersections are very much common? Now tell me. First one is common or not? Load and register the driver is a mandatory or not? Required. Established connection is also required commonly in all the JDBC programs or not? Create statement object is also be common in all the JDBC applications or not? But write and execute SQL queries is a different part. In some situations, I'm inserting the data. In some other situation, I'm getting the data. In some other situation, which SQL query is coming, I don't know. Dynamically, some SQL queries are coming. Which one is coming, I don't know. There, I need to execute that SQL queries, maybe execute method I may use. But which method I'm going to use, I don't know. Depending on our requirement, I'm going to use either of this method. So I cannot say this is a common method. This step is common. This step is like what they know, business method, business requirement. So this is required, mandatory, we require that. This is variable information, not fixed one, not a commonality between all the programs. Leave this one. Now, last one is what there? Last one is also be common step or not? Last one is also like what there? Common step or not? Observe carefully. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, and step number 5 all are common between all the JDBC programs. So this code is a somewhat repeatable code or not? This code is somewhat repeatable code or not? I want to say this repeatable code is boilerplate code. The terminology, boilerplate code. Boilerplate code. That's my point or not? This is a boilerplate code. This is a repeatable code, boilerplate code. Some internal meanings are available, not required. Just understand the terminology, boilerplate code. So, this is a plain JDBC. Here, this boilerplate code we have to write in all the applications, except this fourth step. Okay. Somewhat difficult for the developers or not? Unnecessarily, that lines of code is increased or not? Unnecessarily, we are writing duplicate code every application or not? Exactly here, Spring Framework has given a solution. Exactly here, Spring Framework has provided addressing. Spring Framework is addressing a particular solution for this particular problem. What exactly the Spring Framework is providing? Flexibility. What Spring Framework is addressing the problem here? The problem is whatever the boilerplate code is required in the plain JDBC applications, the total boilerplate code is abstracted inside the Spring Framework. Not required to do all these steps explicitly, just to go for only the fourth step. What is that fourth step? No, write and execute SQL queries. No need to write all these things. That everything is abstracted by Spring Framework internally. That everything is abstracted by Spring Framework internally. Inside this Spring Framework, inside the Spring JDBC, the Spring JDBC is providing solution for this. Not required to write all these instructions. This 4 boilerplate code, repeated code is abstracted. Abstracted in the sense? Hided. The Spring Framework is giving some hiding over all these things, exposing only one step. What is that step now? That step is nothing but write and execute SQL queries. Now tell me, if it is the case now, in the developer point of view, plain JDBC, Spring JDBC, which one is good for us? Obviously, Spring JDBC is good or not? Plain JDBC is giving difficult approach for us, but Spring JDBC is providing easiness for us. Don't write all the 5 number of steps now. Write only one step. Your JDBC operations will be performed again. Easiness. Write all the steps now to perform database operations. Difficult. Because of that reason only, most of the people are trying to work with Spring JDBC instead of plain JDBC. This is what exactly the purpose of the Spring JDBC. One more point I am telling to you. Clearly, try to understand this point clearly. Spring JDBC, in Spring JDBC, what are possible there? Whatever the features we implemented in the plain JDBC, whatever the things we are implementing inside the plain JDBC, everything is implemented in Spring JDBC. More than that plain JDBC, Spring JDBC is providing environment. More than plain JDBC. For example, 10 features are provided by JDBC. If you observe this plain JDBC, maximum 10 topics are available. But if you observe this Spring JDBC, that all 10 topics are implemented here in the easiest way. More than that also we can see inside the Spring JDBC. What more than that we are able to see inside the Spring JDBC, that we will understand later on. And I'm going to start that Spring JDBC topic there we are going to understand. Understand my point or not? That's okay, fine. This is the main intention of like what there, Jdbc module and Jdbc content. If you want to talk about the introduction part here, this is a content here. Next one is, in Jdbc, along with Jdbc, DAO is available or not? DAO is available. What is this DAO actually? Data access object, where we are going to implement some CRUD operations. What are these CRUD operations there? No? Create, read, update, delete. These CRUD operations are nothing but basic database operations only. Create in the sense inserting the data. Read in the sense fetching the data. U in the sense updating the data. D in the sense deleting the data. These CRUD operations here we are going to perform in a DAO only, as part of the DAO layer. Okay. Now here, what this DAO module is providing the implementation for us, for maintaining all the DAO operations, a standard template is provided by this DAO layer. Standard template is provided by this DAO layer, DAO module. By using the template, easily we are going to implement DAO design pattern in our Spring applications. Even if you are not understanding, don't worry for it. In the actual application development, I will discuss with you more. But concept I am telling them. Moreover, DAO module is defining some exceptions. You know already, exception handling in Java. Aware about it? Two types of exceptions are available: checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. In JDBC, maximum which exceptions here we are able to get now? Checked exceptions here we are able to get. JDBC. But what Spring DAO module is doing there? Spring DAO module internally wrapping all checked exceptions into unchecked exceptions, and it is providing handling mechanism for all the unchecked exceptions. For example, in the case of this JDBC, SQL exception we are able to get. But in Spring module, in a Spring JDBC DAO module, that SQL exception is converted to some other exception, some exception or something else, some database exception or something else we are able to get. That should be unchecked exception. So all checked exceptions are converted to unchecked exceptions. That unchecked exceptions are going to be handled effectively in the case of DAO module. So this environment is also be available in the case of like what they know, DAO module. Right, sir? JDBC DAO modules are available like this. Next one, okay, AOP. All of you observe carefully. What is the purpose of this AOP? What is the intention of this AOP? No? Observe carefully. For example, I have an enterprise application. Listen carefully. I have an enterprise application. In that enterprise application, I want to get some support, transaction support I want to get. Transaction support I want to get, or maybe security support I want to get. Something I want to integrate, some transaction support or security support, something I want to provide in my JDBC application. Not only that, some resources management I want to maintain. Some resources are required, like what there, JNDI I want to maintain with my application. Not only JNDI, like what there's some connection pooling I want to implement, that support I want to get into my enterprise application. Then where to get these many this kind of supports in our enterprise application, there is a separate layer. There is a separate layer to get all kind of middleware services into our enterprise application. That layer is a service layer. Observe carefully. Controller layer, service layer, DAO layer, database. Enterprise application development. Later on I'll give the diagrams also, don't worry. So first of all, user interface, presentation layer. Next, controller layer. Next one is what? Service layer. Next one is a DAO layer, data access layer. Next one is a database. In between, the business layer is also available, not required. Service layer is okay. Between controller layer, service layer, business layer is also existed, but don't think about it. Now here what we are having, service layer. Inside the service layer, I want to implement transaction API. I want to implement JNDA support. I want to get some security implementations. All the middleware services I want to get into my enterprise application in the service layer only. In the service layer, if you want to integrate all of them, if you want to provide these many middleware services support in our enterprise application, where we are going to use like what there? AOP. Aspect oriented programming we are going to utilize. In aspect orientation, what is going to be happen there? Every middleware service will be treated as an aspect. Every middleware service will be treated as what? No, an aspect. Transaction is an aspect. Security, authentication is an aspect. Data validation is an aspect. That aspects are available. That aspects are going to be injected to our enterprise application. While executing this enterprise application, wherever this injection is available, there that particular module will be executed. Particular aspect will be executed. Required service will be available to our enterprise application. So where to integrate all these many content into our enterprise application, there we are going to use service layer. Inside the service layer, we are going to use what there? Aspect oriented programming. AOP programming here we are going to use. Once again, I'm telling that if you're not understanding, don't bother about it. Again, we are going to talk more and more about these concepts here now. Say, for example, one more point I'm telling to you. Okay, one simple example I'm telling where I'm giving clarity. I'm giving clarity. Observe carefully. I want to transfer, or else, okay, I want to transfer some amount from my account to my friend account. Example, online banking application I'm taking. Simple example. Whenever we want to transfer amount from one account to another account, first of all, I have to open my browser where I have to type bank URL. Then it is asking about internet banking username and password. And then after that, transfer amount option is available. I may click on it. Whenever I click on this particular one, it is asking some details now. To which bank, to which account we want to transfer it. I filled all the data. After filling all the data, when I click on submit button, what will happen immediately? To our mobile phone, OTP is coming or not? That OTP we have to enter there or not? When we enter that OTP, then only that amount will be transferred or not? Okay. Think about it. Inside the program, there is a method where we implemented the logic for transfer some amount. Okay. Whenever we click on this button, transfer button, flow of execution will come to that method while transferring some amount. No? But my requirement is what? Just before debiting the amount from my account, I want to execute one small security patch. What I want to execute that security patch, asking to the user whether you are the right person or not by sending what? OTP for the registered mobile number. We have to enter that OTP in the respective area. If it is okay, then only that amount has to be transferred. So this is sending OTP to our mobile and getting that OTP value, and if it is valid or not, checking that. If it is valid, allow that method execution. If it is not okay, not to allow that method execution. This total thing we are going to implement in the form of an aspect. This is nothing but OTP aspect, for example. We are going to implement it. But whenever we are trying to transfer the amount, when we execute, when we click on this transfer button, before executing that method, this security patch has to be executed or not. To execute this security patch automatically before our business method execution, there we are going to use what now? AOP. Aspect oriented programming. This is one example, just simple example mapping I am providing there. But still, if you are not understanding, no need to worry too much about it. Later on, we'll go for number of examples to Right, so this is one point. Next one is after that, one more example if you want to know. For example, if you observe some corporate sector, corporate, for example, what I'm telling to you, for example, if you book a ticket in a theater, movie, online ticket booking, if you book a ticket now, what happened there? No, my ticket booking was completed. I got my ticket and everything through my, for example, through some book my show app. I'm booking the tickets. Everything I completed. Then the ticket is also available. After a few seconds of time, I'm getting a message to my mobile phone. Thank you for using. What's that there? Thank you for using that book my show. We are providing very good services for all this, and they're giving some template message. How that message is coming there? Book a ticket. Book a ticket. That method is available where business logic is available. When I execute completely that business logic with that business method, after that, automatically I want to receive some message or not. After executing your business logic, I want to give some information to the user. That information and everything we are going to provide in a separate method. This method I want to execute automatically, immediately after executing our business method. There we have to use what? No, AOP. Just like it is the filters topic and interceptors. In web applications, filters topic is available or not? Before servlet execution, filters will be executed. After servlet execution, filters will be executed. Same concept is available with what there? AOP, aspect oriented programming. Right, sir. Leave this one. ORM. Next one is like what there? ORM. What is ORM there? Object relational mapping. Hibernate. ORM is not another one. Then what is it? ORM there? Hibernate. Object relational mapping. That's it. Can I discuss this topic on tomorrow? Tomorrow. Tomorrow Sunday, right? Still, I'm going to discuss about the topic there. Tomorrow I will complete this. Tomorrow I will start programming. Programming in the sense, steps to prepare first spring application. What exactly the environment is required for us to prepare first application. First overview I'm giving there. Then after, if possible, I'll prepare one application. Right? We'll check the content tomorrow, guys. No need to worry about that. Tomorrow I will take the session, but on 24th I will not go for the class. 24th I may not be available, but come for the class on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11:30 I will take the session. Okay? We'll finish the total content. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow? Class, huh? But I have some other work. I have some other classes. Right. Thank you. Right, sir. And guys, and OXM and WebSocket and Spring Batch. And Spring Batch, okay, then I'll cover maybe Spring Boot Batch, and that we are able to cover, but remaining things are not going to be covered. OXM and WebSockets, no, I'll not go for it. Yeah, okay. Abhishek, thank you. And guys, and Spring documentation, I think so, is available in the Google Drive. Please check once, you'll get it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we'll meet on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11:30, I'll take the content.